Now joining us on the line is MIAA Spokesperson, Attorney Chris Bendiho. He's going to be talking to us about the things going on with MIAA right now. Chris, hi.
Good morning, Ms. Mikey.
Okay, Chris, a lot of things going on with the Manila International Airport Authority, one of which just yesterday, a petition was filed against you guys by a consumer group, depending on how it was sent. I don't suppose you have a copy of that yet, do you, Chris?
Well, we haven't formally received a copy of the petition, and it would be improper for us to comment on the matter. In fact, it would be improper for us to comment at all, since it's pending before the court. But of course, we respect their right to seek judicial relief and remedies. We, however, maintain that the entire process, from the bidding all the way to the concession agreement and even the AO1 rates, the process was very transparent and in accordance with law.
Okay, absolutely. So let's talk in broad strokes. I think the big picture here revolves around balancing privatization, public interest, and legal accountability. In a nutshell, the consumer groups fear that privatization might not will prioritize profit rather than the public's interest. How do you ensure, when doing what you do, how do you ensure that you strike a balance between the two?
Well, first, the concession agreement would still be the best evidence that this is not the case. Contained in that concession agreement would be the key performance indicators, the obligations of NNIC, which we're supposed to regulate, including mandatory, civil, and CAAP works that would cover infrastructure, introduction of technology, which is all of these are geared towards what I personally take as two most important KPIs. Number one, the increase of passenger terminal capacity from 30 million to 60, and two, increase of aircraft movement per hour from 40 to 48. Now, of course, all actions done by NNIC are geared towards this, and as new regulator, MIAA will have to ensure that all of their actions will be compliant with the key performance indicators in the concession agreement.
Okay, stepping back a bit, the Manila International Airport Authority handed over the operations and maintenance of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport to the winning bidder, SMC's new NAIA Infrastructure Corp, or NNIC, on September 14th. With this transition, how now does MIAA fit into the new operational structure? I understand it's a bit of a tripartite agreement. Can you elaborate on this, Attorney Chris?
That's right. MIAA will be the regulator. Operations and maintenance of the terminals will be the obligation of NNIC. And there will be an independent consultant who will sit as the third party to arbitrate between the two. Now, as regulator, the concession agreement enumerates key performance indicators which NNIC is supposed to comply with and the timelines for the same. And the role of MIAA as regulator is to ensure that all their actions are geared towards satisfying and complying all the key performance indicators.
Talk to us about the complexity of what you're doing, the overhaul of NAIA. Now, speaking of, to put things into perspective, you're not building from the ground up. You are overhauling an existing airport that's still functioning, that still needs to be functioning all throughout it all. And it's our main gateway at that. Can you talk to us about the complexities? How complex and how challenging is this endeavor?
You got it on point. No? I think that's one of the biggest challenges both NNIC and MIAA would be facing, because we all know how substantial the needed improvements. And you correctly pointed it out. We are doing this on what we call a live airport, or what they call a brownfield airport. Operations should still continue. The commitment of NNIC is to introduce all of these without having a substantial disruption on the operations. And I tell you, that's a big challenge. For instance, if you want to improve the air conditioning, you cannot just simply turn it off. You cannot just simply close the airport to introduce the infrastructure or the technology, because it is operating. So this has to be really executed carefully and with precision.
What's the total investment cost of this overhaul, Chris?
The concession agreement covers a 170 billion investment on the part of NNIC.
Okay. There's a lot of complaints about how much money is going to be going to this and how consumers are going to have to recoup this. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but what comes to mind is the Skyway and how initially when that came to fore, a lot of people were complaining about the high costs of the toll fees. But when it actually happened, there was the efficiency, the increased efficiency and the convenience that it brought. How do you think this situation is going to fare out in the long run? Do you think it's going to be similar to what happened with the Skyway project? A lot of heeing and hawing at first, but then eventually when they see the improvements, that's when people acknowledge the need for it and are more accepting. What do you think about this, Attorney Chris?
Well, I totally agree with what you pointed out. Really, change is very difficult in the beginning. And just to give you an idea, our terminals are designed, their original design is just for a 30 million capacity. At present, we're hitting 40 million already. So that tells us how much we have to catch up with, how much improvements we need to introduce to attain that convenience level. And at this point, what I can say is that we're on the right path. Remember that NNIC, they're partnered with Incheon Airport, and it's one of the best airports in the world. So I think we just need a little more patience, a little more understanding from our stakeholders, from our passengers. In due time, maybe early quarter next year, we can already feel some of the changes that will be introduced.
Now, under the agreement, NNIC is to remit 82.16% of its gross revenues to the national government, excluding terminal fees. How significant is this commitment, and what impact do you see it having on both government revenues and airport operations?
For one, it actually shows the commitment of NNIC that their objective really here is the improvement and overhaul of the airport and not revenue. It also assures the government of revenues while NNIC is operating the terminals because we have to put it on record. For instance, NNIC had already shelled out 30 billion upfront payment for the concession agreement. They've already paid also above 1.5 billion for the prorated 2 billion annuity, which is guaranteed for 2024. And they've also remitted 82.16% of gross revenues, excluding PSC, for this quarter of 2024. So clearly, it's not a revenue-based operation on the part of NNIC. Rather, I think geared towards the vision of RSA himself, is that really to remove NAIA from being branded as the worst airport in the world. So I think that revenue sharing proposed by NNIC shows a different perspective insofar as running the terminals is concerned.
Well, from the worst airport in the world, things can only get better from here. Chris, in terms of improvements, can you give us an update on the latest developments within MIAA? When are we going to start feeling the first round of benefits following the transition? And how specifically will these improvements translate to boosts in two key issues, passenger capacity and air traffic movements?
That's right. Insofar as projects pending and completed are concerned, what I can report on is one, the OFW lounge, which is already completed in Terminal 3. It's already being enjoyed by our modern day heroes. And if that's a taste of the improvement that is to come, then it's a very good start. The next would be, adjacent to that, would be expansion of immigration counters, final security check at Terminal 3, which will cater to our OFWs, senior citizens, PWDs, and other passengers with reduced mobility. We've already boarded up our new area for greeters and well-wishers in Terminal 3. If you've been around our terminals, you'll notice road widening, and I'm made aware that a specific exit, another exit will be introduced by Skyway that will lead to Terminal 3. So there will be no more crisscrossing of vehicular traffic in front of Resorts World. We have procurement of additional technology, X-ray, scanning machines, PVDs, your automated visual docking system. It's quite a long list, Ms. Mikey. I don't know if we have enough time.
Yeah,
but,
all right.
I think we have enough that will be felt for the first quarter or next quarter of next year.
Okay, one last question before I let you go, Chris. When will this overhaul be finished realistically and optimistically speaking?
In terms of timeline, assuming that we do not encounter any legal obstacles, I think in a matter of 5 to 8 years, we'll be able to see overhaul of the terminal. That includes even the creation of a new terminal where Philippine Village Hotel is. Part of the obligation of NNIC is to demolish this and establish a new terminal that will be connected to Terminal 2. So if you can imagine, this will be creating a mega terminal that will be additional parking base for our aircraft. And then, of course, as we've mentioned, the intention really is to increase passenger terminal capacity. So if you can imagine how much more gates this will create, how much more commercial real estate this will create, and again, this will really generate better economic activity insofar as the Philippines is concerned.
Okay, thank you for those updates on everything going on with MIAA, Attorney Chris.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good morning.
That was Attorney Chris Bendiho, spokesperson for the Manila International Airport Authority.